Hey, this is Nick with Testimony of Apocalypse, and we're rocking out to the Covenant Metal Show.
Hey, I am here with the mighty Testimony of Apocalypse. I got Paul Graham and Nick Pasidi on the show here today. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And welcome back to the show. I've had you guys on here before.
Yeah, we're not rookies.
No. Repeat guests. I like that. So you guys have your new your full-length debut album out, None Escape the Judgment. And first and foremost, man, congratulations on that. And it is a killer album. I love it, man, start to finish. And you guys have some single releases from that. You got some videos for that up on YouTube. And last time we touched on how the band got started. Obviously, some of you guys are former members of Sacrament, and you came up with the name Testimony of Apocalypse, which also is the name of one of the Sacrament albums. But this time I'd like to dive into this album. Did you guys who came up with your sound? Did you want to kind of stick with a classic thrash metal sound, or did you guys want to go heavier and more more edgier?
Paul, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of our sound kind of just came to be. I guess we had an idea of what sound we wanted. I know personally myself, drum wise, like my drums had to sound better than what they did on the Sacrament albums. And I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about the sound that I got. I'm really pleased with the sound that we got for the drums. And then Nick, you can let him know like all the stuff that you had your tone kind of you worked on. Like he didn't, like, the first tone that he had wasn't the end tone that he ended up with. So
yeah, well, as far as if you're talking about tone, and the guitar tone itself, there's a lot of tweaking. If you were, Dave or anybody, if they would have heard the early demos of what I was recording, it sounded pretty bad. As far as the quality of the tone, it just wasn't where I wanted it to be.
You should have just released that.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I guess it's no secret that we did try to have the 30th year kind of reunite and try to put together an album. But so there was a few songs, a few ideas that we did end up using kind of from things I wrote when we were trying to get that reunion album. So maybe some of it does have at times a Sacrament sound, and that's absolutely, like I said before in another interview with someone, that definitely like an ode to that era, to Paul, Mike, and the guys at Sacrament. He named the band after the first album, the first full length album that Mike was a part of, because he was also on the Presumed Dead tapes. So I thought it was great to kind of keep it going. Again, it's kind of like an ode to that era, but it doesn't have to sound just like the bands of 1990. But definitely influenced, for sure. That helps.
Nice. Very cool. So Paul, as a drummer, who were your influences? What got you to decide, to become a drummer?
Well, I had been playing guitar, and the first instrument I started to learn was guitar when I was maybe 15, I think I was. And I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I kind of played everything. If the band needed a guitar player, I was the guitar player. If the band needed a bass player, I was the bass player. But, if the band needed a singer, I was the singer. So that's kind of what I was just kind of jumping around, basically whatever we needed to make this band happen, I became. And I guess it was around we were doing band practices at my house. My parents were away down on vacation. I had the house for 2 weeks. So I put the band in my living room. We set the whole thing up in my living room.
Nice.
And we were just jamming like every day, every night. It was awesome. And one of the guys he was the drummer. I was playing bass for that band. He said, "Hey man, if is it okay if I leave my drums here? Because, traveling back and forth, it's rough to, bring them back and forth. Do you mind if I leave them here?" It's like, sure, like no problem. He goes, "Listen, you want to get on them and play them, go ahead. Like, totally cool with that." And I said, okay. Well, I got on the drum set, and let me tell you, I loved it. I had no idea that I could even do it. I had no idea.
Really? It just came naturally for you?
I just started playing, Dave. It was crazy. I had never tried it before, and I just got on it and thought, this is awesome. I love it. And nice. I ended up selling that band kind of disbanded, and I sold like a PA system and my bass, and I got a drum set. That's what started it. And then right about that time, that's when I came to know the Lord. So right up until that point, we were it was we were a secular band. We knew of Stryper, but it was at that moment that I came to know the Lord, and I was like, and I'm going to play my music for you. And that was it.
You mind giving us the story of, if you're cool with it, how you came to the Lord?
Sure. It was funny. The guys,
I love testimonies.
There were two guys in the band that I was in, and they were doing a lot of, we were definitely interested in what Stryper was doing. Mm-hmm. We definitely was like, wow, like that's unique. That is so different. All the metal bands that we ever knew, they weren't talking about God or anything. And so we were kind of like leaning that direction, that we were going to do something like that. And the two guys were, just saying, just, I don't know. They were just saying stuff. And I had gone to Sunday school as a kid and everything. And I was like, that's not right. Like what they're saying is not right. That is, I know that's not right. Yeah. So I actually went home that night to basically prove them wrong. That's what I went to go. I was going to go home, get the Bible out, find what they were talking about, and say, see, this is totally false, what you're saying. Went home, didn't pick up the Bible. My parents had a book in the bookcase. It was Hal Lindsey's Countdown to Armageddon, 1980s Countdown to Armageddon. And for whatever reason, I picked that book up and I read it from the front cover to the back cover.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't know, I think it was probably like maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. And at the end of the book, it said, if you would like to know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, pray this prayer. You're speaking to God. And I did. I got down off the bed. I got on my knees. I prayed that prayer. And it was like the Paul conversion, Saul to Paul type of thing, where it was like, 1 minute, I'm not for God at all. I hated church. I didn't want to go to Sunday school. And like the next day, it was like, that's all I wanted to do. All I wanted to do was play my drums for the Lord. Man. And those two guys that, I wanted to prove them wrong, I came back at them and they were like, what happened? What happened to you? Like, you're like on fire. And I was like, I told them what had happened. And so credit to those two, because those two were the ones that God used to reach me.
So were you kind of like, dude, I got me some Jesus. You want some?
Yeah, it became very, once, for people who have experienced that, as soon as you have experienced Jesus in your life, you're like, I got to tell everybody. Yeah. I don't care who I got to tell everybody. So that kind of put me on the road to, I'm going to play. Now there were still secular bands who wanted me to play for them. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm playing. If I do anything, I'm playing for the Lord. That's it.
Amen.
And that's when me and I met Eric Nye, and we decided, I said, listen, this is the type of band I want to form,
Mhm.
and we formed that band, and that's where Sacrament came from.
Awesome. Awesome. Nick, you have been so patient.
I'm always here.
Right
Sorry,
on,
Odie.
dude.
Listening. I always enjoy listening.
I have the same question for you, man. So, what cuz you sing and you also play guitar. So, what singer
I didn't sing on this album, but
okay. Okay, we'll stick with the singing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, who were influences for you, and if you don't mind, man, share your testimony too. I love hearing testimonies. I really do.
Yeah. Influence, music in general from, going all the way back, listening to my brothers, he was in like a lot of grunge metal or grunge rock and into some metal. But really when I started listening, I guess, to metal was like most people, my age, was Metallica and Slayer, Pantera. Those were the three big bands. Then I heard Testament, and then so there was definitely a progression from, like, you hear Metallica and you appreciate them, and then you hear all the other bands too that are out there.
Oh yeah.
And but a lot of it did start with that style from, like, the early '80s. Like the Show No Mercy from Slayer, and Kill 'Em All from Metallica. But yeah, I would say Paul. So Paul was my Sunday school teacher, which is kind of funny. And I think it was like ninth grade or eighth grade Sunday school, I think it was. And, we got talking about music, and I heard about Sacrament, and he explained kind of, how they came about. And I said, well, I listen to metal. So we started like trading discs. He was kind of curious to what I was listening to, and I would, hear some of the bands that he was listening to. And then, of course, Sacrament. And then that's when I started to realize, like, that this is, not maybe to the degree Paul. I think mine was more gradual, but I think I did. That's when I started to see, like, wow, I can be playing all this music and doing this, and and doing it for the Lord, and the fellowship. We had so many people in and out of the band. We had people helping the band. I mean, it was quite the operation. It wasn't just some, like, little praise group. I mean, we were like on all cylinders all the time, and we were playing all sorts of places. Like, I think the one time, Paul, I think we played to like 300, 400 people, which was kind of a big deal for us. Like, back when, coffee shops, and there was a lot more kind of open arms to having these bigger events more often. So I think I saw then, Dave, that really it was, if this is, all this can be done through music too. So it's not just going to church, and for a lot of people who were 14 or 15 at the time, church was pretty boring. And it was something that your parents had to make you go to. But then it started to become, a fun experience where, we were playing music and, hanging out with more people your age, and having other kids and teens seeing, at the same time as you, kind of what, what's the spirit of God and what we could bring to the table, as musicians, to spread the word. So all of that together, like I said, it was a little more gradual, but the whole experience is what really, helped me see that. So hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So going back to the album, None Escape the Judgment, what was the first song that you guys wrote for the album? We've got 10 tracks on the album. Did you have a theme, or was it just, hey, I got these riffs, I got these ideas, what do you guys think?
And as far as the theme, I mean, Mike, for those who know Mike's style from Sacrament too, I mean, he's pretty in your face, pretty bold, from where he's coming from. And that was, we knew that from the start, that was going to be, as far as like stylistically and almost a theme in itself, right, Paul? You would say like we were.
Yeah, I think we were. Yeah, I think we were definitely. It was almost like an extension of Sacrament in a way, because it was like, well, Testimony of Apocalypse is the name, and then we figured, well, sure, like it's a no-brainer. We could do the Four Horsemen, and it fit the theme. It fit the Testimony of Apocalypse and all the stuff that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Geez, are we living in the end times? I don't know. There's sure a lot of bad stuff happening right now. But we just thought, yeah, let's give it a shot. We knew what Mike's style was going to be. And I think you had asked what the first song was. It was Redemption, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
We called it Song 5. Like when Nick would come up with a riff or a song or whatever, we had to call it something so we knew what it was, right? Mm-hmm. So Nick would call it like song number 5. I think Truth versus Lies was song 6, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then Lamb of God was NP 11.
Yeah,
Nick City 11th idea.
Yeah, so there was a lot of ideas that were scratched early on too. So I mean, it was a fifth one that got it right.
Yeah. So there were 4 songs before song 5 that didn't, maybe we chopped it up or used it. I think we did. Then we used it for like Unleashed, Nick, a couple of those parts.
Yeah.
So we kind of like, we didn't necessarily bury it, but we were just like, let's put that on the shelf. If we need to come back to it, we will. If we need a part. And that's kind of how and then after that, it was just, Nick was just writing. It was like, hey man, I got another song. Once we really got into the groove, we really started to, the songs were just flowing like one after another. It wasn't like, oh, this song's not good enough, we're going to put that on the shelf, we're going to do another one. It was like every song Nick was coming up with was like, dude, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's it. That's great. We're just going to keep going.
That's amazing when that happens. Absolutely, man. You guys have 4 singles that you released from the album. And like I said earlier, the music video or the lyric videos for those are up on YouTube, on you guys' YouTube channel. Make sure that you guys subscribe. Redemption, Truth versus Lies, Take My Spirit, and We All Shall Rise. Those are the singles. And what I really dig, man, is I love the cover of the album. You got the 4 horsemen and you see all the chaos going around and behind them and whatnot. And it's all red, I mean, blood red. And how did you guys come up with the idea for that?
We can't take a whole lot of credit for it. I mean,
we can't. We only came up with the theme.
Yeah, the theme. So
4 Horsemen was ours.
Yeah. So for those who remember, there was an orange. First logo that we released was more orange and black. And I'm looking up because I actually have a clock that has that image on it. And we thought that was the one, but there was a few things about it that it was a cool image, but not maybe like an album cover. And we all talked about how much we like red and black, and I sent it to another artist, and they came back with, very close to what you see. We had a few people touch it up after. But yeah, and that particular artist didn't really want any credit for it. So, and they only provided their first name. So that's what I used in the credits. That's what we used.
Was that from Fiverr?
Yeah.
That was from Fiverr. There's a site for artists. And if you go on there, you can contact them and say, hey, this is the theme. This is what we're thinking of doing. What do you got? And they'll be like, okay, they'll do it. And the price is ridiculous. The price is ridiculous for people who are looking for album covers.
Yeah, and they'll give you so many revisions, but if you get the source file, then you can give it to somebody else who can doctor it some more and It's kind of ended up what we ended up doing.
Yeah, and I think
it didn't pop, like the words didn't pop in the original one. We had to make sure if it was going to be an album cover that people could read it. So that was a big deal.
And I think it was somebody from Morocco, wasn't it, Nick?
Yeah.
Morocco, which is totally changing how the whole thing goes. I mean, we can get somebody from Morocco to do the cover. We can have somebody mix it down in Washington D.C. or, master it in Washington D.C. It's amazing how broad it is now.
So you guys recorded everything in your homes, and then you sent all the tracks to somebody for mixing and mastering?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep. Now, the album title, None Escape the Judgment. Who came up with that and how?
Mike used it as a lyric in the song A Day of Wrath, track number 5. And he used it in such a powerful way. I mean, you can't miss it because like the guitar cuts out to one side and it's a lot of air, and really all you hear is Mike. And I think it was just a point in the album that I don't think anybody can forget once you hear it. So
yeah, because at first we were like, maybe we'll just be self-titled. We're just going to put it out as is. And when I heard that part in the song, I was like, yo guys, None Escape the Judgment. I think that's the name of the album. And they were like,
cool.
They were like, that's it. That sounds great. And that was it. As soon as I heard that.
Mike has a lot of, he likes to call it, brutal. His style is very brutal. But that particular part, I feel like he's just screaming on a little bit more, like another level.
A little more edge.
Like there's something there to it. And when I heard that, I didn't instantly think it was the album title, but I was like, wow. I was like, that's a cool part. So it definitely stood out for us. Nice.
Now, are you guys or have you gotten together to do any gigs in support of the new album, or is there any plans to do that?
We haven't really gotten there yet.
We have not, believe it or not. I mean, we haven't even like you said that we recorded remotely, so we all recorded at our own homes. We have not played together in the same room once.
Oh, yet. Wow.
Still, we've still not done it because
you got to get on that.
We do everything. Like I said, we do everything remotely, and it just wasn't, then the album came out and, we're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook in support of it. The lyric videos and reels and stories and posts and, basically like the marketing part of it.
So one thing that a lot of people don't know too, Dave, is after the whole Sunday school story that I gave you guys earlier, is that Paul and I were in a band together for 15 years. And we wrote a lot of songs together. So I don't think it would be hard to kind of pick up where he left off. And obviously Mike and Paul were in a band 30 years ago, but I don't think it would be too hard to have it click. But it's just finding the time to do all that. So
yeah,
and also Nick played the keyboards and the bass.
Oh,
so
nice.
We would need somebody to play keyboard. We would need somebody to play the bass.
Yeah.
And, so that's even, there's even more people to add in there. So that's another thing.
Yeah. And then half of the leads were actually done by the guy who mixed our album. He's out in, where is it? Oregon.
Portland.
Like Portland area.
Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
So where can people go to get the new album, None Escape the Judgment? Where can they pick that up?
They can get it from the Bandcamp through the Charon Collective, or it's also available at the Christian metal distro through Rocks. And Paul, I guess
Nordic Mission
digital.
It's also available in Europe through Nordic Mission. And then it's also streaming everywhere. So you can also get it that way too.
Cool. Well, there you have it, guys. Testimony of Apocalypse, None Escape the Judgment. Pick it up. Guys, thanks so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.